Family Resource Center on Disabilities is a Region 1 parent training and information center in Illinois. You can reach us at 312-939-3513. We encourage you to visit our website at www.frcd.org, and we encourage you to follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter at FRCDPTI, and we're on YouTube at FRCD1231. Family Resource Center on Disabilities is not a law firm or a legal service agency. And you are watching FRCD on CAN TV. And I'm your host, Paula Wills, and today we will be discussing remote learning. Now, we're actually continuing this topic from last time where we were talking about remote learning and parent advocacy. Today, I am happy to have back my colleague, bilingual parent trainer, Zabita Pasha. Welcome, Zabita.
Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, difference a day makes via Zoom.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity.
No, absolutely. Thank you for joining us. So this is going to be a first for FRCD, where we're going to do the show today with Zoom. So far I'm liking it. How are you liking it, Zabita?
I am fine with it. You know, the virtual model have been our thing since the shutdown. So we're exploring ways and means to relay the message to parent, and we're demonstrating, that it can be done in different ways. So virtually, we are
Right.
relating, the advocacy by Zoom, and we hope and pray that we can answer questions and address concerns that the parent may have.
No, absolutely. Yeah. New day, new world. So
Yes,
today
yes.
we are talking about tips for remote learning. Basically, we're talking about remote learning tips in terms of, setup at home, managing remote learning with your child. So today, Zabita is going to help us with that.
Sure.
So today, well, let's start off with our first tip. What is the first thing? Obviously, parents have been in school. I mean, students, not parents. I guess both have been in school for about. We're going on our second week, so kind of getting settled into what the year holds. So, what is the first tip that you can suggest for a family whose student is in remote learning? Meaning they may be.
First,
But
first
before we do that, actually before we do that, let's talk about what do we mean by remote learning?
Thank you. That is a very important point, Paula, and I'm glad that you brought it in because remote learning during this pandemic had been a little bit confusing to parent.
Yeah.
It has a nuance of technology tagging. It is not necessary with technology. Remote learning is learning at a distance. It can be through technology, which you will have to have a computer or a device to receive your instruction and learning. And there is the other way, the traditional way, the packet, the paper packet. However, it depends on each school what they have
Right.
available. My understanding and my knowledge about Chicago Public School, particularly, they do not have now during the school year the packet. Why? They said that they had provided devices to every student
Okay.
practically. Now, parent, if you are listening and watching this program, if you do not have a device, the first tip is to get settled with a device or with a way how your child will learn. Either if they don't have the device, you don't have the internet connection, these are the things, basic things that you need to address before the learning. If they don't have those things in your school, local school, make sure you work with the principal, the teachers on how they will teach your child. Is it by phone? Is it by a packet? So remote learning definition is learning at a distance. When the pandemic started, the school were not prepared. As a matter of fact, none of us were prepared for
No,
it.
no, we weren't.
It took
Here
us by
today, gone
surprise.
tomorrow. That's pretty much how it
Right,
went.
right. So it took us by surprise. However, some schools they had the technology ready, but
Right.
some other schools did not. For that being said, Some schools, they were creative in providing work packet. It goes either daily, weekly. I have supported parents where they got a week of paper
Okay.
work, and then they submit it every Friday in the afternoon. There is a set. The other bigger tip that, and I'm saying it with a smile, is the communication. We need
Yes.
parents to communicate effectively, clearly, and quickly when there are issues and concerns. Do
Yeah,
not sit
especially
and
now.
wait. Yep, do not sit and wait. They will not be addressed if you are not going to raise those concerns to folks who can help you. When I say folks who can help you, it's the school directly,
Hmm.
the district, and us, Family Resource
Right,
Center. We can help you
absolutely. Yeah.
navigate. We can help you navigate. We don't fix. I want to be clear. We don't fix, but we help navigate
Right.
the
Help
process.
brainstorm and, come
Yes,
up with solutions and,
yes,
tell you what your rights are as you advocate for your child in the special education system.
yes, yes,
So, with that being understood, so today we're talking about tips. So,
yes.
what is the first tip? If nothing else, what is the first thing that a family should start with when if they're because I should also point out that not every student is learning remotely. Some students are in a classroom. Some schools have a hybrid model. So today we're specifically speaking for students who are learning remotely. So again,
Okay,
what would you suggest? So what's the first suggestion you have on what a family should do?
okay. With that being said, we are looking into the student who have IEPs and 504.
Right.
The first tip is to look into that IEP and your child plan to make sure that the services that are going to be provided remotely are in accordance of his or her IEP.
Okay.
There is something that is tagged to that, and I don't want you to be confused, parent, if you're listening. That is a law that came through the pandemic. It is not. It is just a supplement to make it easy on parent to understand the provision of services through the IEP is remote learning plan, which is a component now that they had added separate than the IEP. But in other words, it is part of it. Why? Because they have to look at the services provided through the IEP and put it remotely. Some of it can be looking a little bit different in time, but not necessarily at 100% different. So let's say you are going to do 500 minutes of English language art
Mm-hmm.
for a student who have a learning disability. This is a random example. Then that 500 minutes can look like 375 minutes because of the remote learning.
Hmm.
Uh, why? The school day has shrunk a little bit. If you remember, when the school was open, the time was a little bit longer. With the remote learning, I have noticed there is like about 45 to 50-minute less.
Okay.
And that is taking in consideration possibly navigating the hallway, lunch, recess, etc.
That's a good point. I did not think about that because you think about the school day, it's like, oh, I lost 45 minutes. But there are breaks, there's transition times, transitioning from one subject to the other, one class to the other. Okay.
Yes.
I seriously did not think about that.
So there is that we have to take in consideration. So the first tip that I can relate to the parent is to look into your child IEP, review it, read
Okay.
it. If you see the IEP plan is not in accordance with what the remote plan is saying or is provided, then you have to write a letter and raise this concern to folks who are providing direct support and services to your child. The same way for the 504. If your child have a 504 and you see that the plan is not in accordance of the accommodation, because 504 does not have the time per se
Right.
like the IEP have specifics, time, provision of the service, who is going to provide. 504 is a tad, it's a lot different, not a tad different. It's a lot different. It does not give us the time. Nonetheless, it will show us the accommodation. If my child needs 50% of the time to finish his work, during remote learning, they are rushing my child like all children. I will say, no, my child's 504 says that he needs 50% more time to finish his assignment. He needs more time to do his homework, etc. So, first tip, review, check, read, double check your child's IEP and 504 and see do a copy match to the remote learning that you have. Any questions, any concerns, contact us, and of course, we will help you how to navigate that process.
Absolutely. So before your student, well, I guess your students already picked up their pencil or their keyboard or whatever. Um, that is the first tip. Review the IEP.
Yes,
Understand the IEP.
yes.
Okay, so let's move on to our second tip. Okay, so we know we've reviewed the IEP. We've, you know, checked all the boxes. We're ready to go with the IEP. What do we do next?
Next, we have it's hard for me to say this because I'm a parent. I have an adult in the household who is
Right.
receiving remote learning.
Okay.
You have to provide that setting. It's not going to
Yes.
be the same setting as the school, but as best as you can, make sure your child is settled in a spot that is not cluttered, that is away from noise, away from TV, away from the toy box, that type of things. Provide that setting for your child as best as you can. There are circumstances where the child may not be in the household, maybe at a daycare. Be specific if they are in a daycare that your child is going to receive remote learning. The TV cannot be allowed.
Right.
You cannot have 1,000 toy that because it's going to cause distraction for that baby. They will
Right.
not learn. They will look at the toys and whatever that will be distracting to them more so than the screen to learn. So provide that setting in remote learning. Very important tip, and it is happening within our household, is organization, scheduling, setting a routine. It's critical.
Absolutely.
It's critical. I'm saying it very, very loud. It's critically important that you set a routine and a schedule because if you are jumping here and there, first of all, during remote learning, there is attendance. I want
Right.
you to be aware that there is attendance that will be taken. They will tell you your child have not been attending if you are coming into the class, 15 minutes late, or you just plug in and you're not showing up. That's
Yeah.
not going to work now. So you have to have a routine, you have to have a scheduling, and you have to be mindful of your child's schedule. If you did not receive as of today, which is the second week of school, your child's schedule, it's a problem because
Right.
you need to know the period, you need to know the teachers. In case technology does not come, then what do we do?
Yeah.
Who
What's the
am I
syllabus?
contacting? The
What's the
principal.
agenda?
Principal may not be understanding how technology function.
Right.
So know who is your person technology in your school child, your child's school. Know who is doing the scheduling. Know who can respond to you readily when you call. Because remote working, when I say remote working, for people who are working from home, they may have a lot of things going on at the same time. They may not pick up that phone when you call and your child is not accessing their learning.
Right. No, absolutely. Environment is very important because,
Yes.
as I discussed in the last show, students were in a controlled environment. They had a set schedule. Certain time we're from 9 to 10 we're gonna do this. From 11:05 10:05 to maybe 11:15. This is what's happening. So it took the student a long time to get in that routine. For some students, it took years to get into the routine of school. So having that schedule day to day. And then you take in consideration back in March, they're just yanked out of it. So now, the burden falls on the parent or, the family to recreate that schedule, that environment. So, yeah, being consistent, same place every day, removing all distractions so that the student associates that space, that time with school. Because even when I've had to work remotely, it took a little bit to say, okay, I need to establish a space. I need to establish a routine because I'm not in my office. So my office, I walk through the door, work mode. I walk home, fun mode. So for the student, same thing. The space where they probably, always played their video games or whatever they did for fun, now it's become schoolroom. So, it takes a while to
Classroom.
make that association.
Classroom. It become classroom.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Classroom. See?
Yeah.
So,
So it's a very challenging time, and unfortunately, parents who have children with IEPs, they think the IEP will fix the remote learning to where they don't have to do anything. It is not a good news that I will bring to them. Unfortunately, they have to do more now with the remote learning because the redirection, that support has to be naturally provided at home, but now it's on a different level.
right,
If your child need that prompting to stay focused and look at that screen, discuss that with your child's school where they have to have some form of support remotely. I don't know how will it look like, but it can be provided remotely with accommodation. You
right,
can put it in the IEP by requesting a revision of the IEP. If your child is the type who need like start and first then, make sure you discuss that so they can send you some pictures where it said beginning or start end or first then, so you can have
right.
that visual schedule ready for your child. Again, it's all about the environment, the educational environment, uh, that can be conducive and accommodating to these babies because it's a shift in our lives
Yes, yes,
and
it
we have
is.
to make the best out of it. And I'm saying it, because I am a mother, I'm a parent like everybody else. It is not easy, but you have to put the light on it to make it through. This is very difficult for all of us.
Yeah, no, this is not a cakewalk for anybody involved. So we've named so far two tips. The first tip is review the IEP. The second tip is to create an organized classroom space in the home, if I'm saying that correctly.
Yes, you did. Yes, you
Okay.
did. And you receive a lot of calls and you filter the calls to us, Coda, and you can say the concerns that you have heard so we can give the tips because my head is full of tips.
Yeah, so I would
Different
say,
tips.
in terms of like tips, or like often the concern we receive is mainly advocacy concerns such as why are so like with my child's IEP, they're not following the IEP. So in this situation, is particularly with parents, is the issue is that parents are in a position, or home, or whoever caregivers are in a position where they're going to collect a lot of data in a way they never could before. So one of the reasons why these tips are super important is because being organized, having a clear understanding of the IEP is going to help you in managing that data and determining if your child is progressing, regressing, making any meaningful improvement whatsoever. So in that sense, I think these tips are super important because it's going to at least lay a foundation. You're going to build a foundation so that this will help your child when things turn to a pseudo normal. Maybe in a situation where they may, for when it's safe and appropriate, students may be able to return back to the classroom. This is what I've been doing. This is what my child has experienced. We're seeing progression here. We're seeing regression here, and helping you have that conversation with the school so your child can continue to be a continuing learner. We don't want this to totally derail your child's academic experience and academic career. So that
So
being
when you say that, it prompted the idea in my head on the other tips that I have for parent,
right.
beside the learning, reading the IEP, etc. Engage yourself
Okay.
in the newsletter, understanding what your school district is doing, Be involved in the board meetings. Voice your concerns to groups of parents. Consolidate your concerns with other parents' concerns, because why? Unity will bring change.
Yes.
You can do a lot with your, but you can do a lot by you saying what you need to say, but when it is collectively said, it's better and change happen faster.
Right.
uh, do also know, as a tip, that nothing has changed in IDEA. Nothing. Meaning there is no waivers, meaning also free appropriate public education should be provided. Your child is still entitled to it during remote learning in accordance of the federal law that is protecting your child to receive the special education services. That means that anything in that IEP from last year prior to the shutdown should be implemented. And again, it may look a little bit different again, but it is not going to be provided, because I have heard situations where they said, well, he has an IEP, he does not have to do anything. We will be fine. We will do this. No, no, it is going to be according to his or her IEP. Free appropriate public education is not waived. If you have questions or concerns about that, please contact us. We have resources state level and also on the U.S. Department of Education level that we can share with you. The guidance is out there.
Yes.
Read it,
And
check
it's
it.
constantly being updated too.
Yes, it is. It is updated almost day by day, because they are receiving. Again, this is a tip. If you have a concern, don't sit still. Don't do nothing. Say something to a parent. Make it happen. In a collective effort to make that change happen. Be tuned to what your school district is doing. School district, they have different models. I know school district who have the hybrid model, where they
Right.
send in the school student 2 days out of the week to the classroom in a pod, which is just a couple of hours from 8 to 11, and then another pod from 11 to 3. Be in tune to those changes. I know a district very close to our area of service, Paula. They have to shut down after opening in the hybrid model.
Yeah.
Why? The number of COVID had increased. So the parent were scrambling next day to tell their student, to their children, you're not going to school tomorrow because they changed. Some parent did not receive the information. They were waiting out on the bus in the corner of their block. And they
Wow.
texted another parent. They said, did you receive the email? Well, yeah, I receive a lot of emails. Read those emails. They may have important information that you may miss that is relevant to your child learning, etc. Another tip is to keep a log of communication
Yes,
on what your child
absolutely.
is receiving and what they are not receiving. If they have social work 30 minutes a week, and you only feel or see your child is on that computer for 10 minutes, you have to relate to the school that your child have in his IEP 30 minutes, and he need to receive that as is in his IEP. Also, when you receive the services, make sure it is in accordance of their goals and benchmarks in their IEP, because I have
Absolutely.
heard parents saying, oh, they send me a link about cooking. I said, okay, is that in their IEP? It's a functional skill. I'm not taking that, as a bad thing. But if an elementary student is a fifth grader, for example, and they are working on executive functioning and organization, and you were doing that in the school environment by hands-on, by game, by
Right.
group of students, and all of a sudden you sending them a link for cooking, because cooking have organization, don't
Yeah.
mistake me, but you
But
are
where's
not
the
saying to
hands-on?
the
Where's the
parent,
mechanical component to that?
right? But you're not explaining to the parent the rationale of me sending this link for cooking, because it's step by step, it's organization, it's attention, all of those things. Then the parents are getting confused and start, frustration and ranting.
Yeah.
Avoid that. To mitigate those things, ask question. Why? my child is receiving this link, for example,
And what
for
am I?
PT. I have heard something in PT in physical therapy like, okay, is it in accordance of their goals? They said, well, no, no. What's the rationale? They could not. I said, email the provider and get clarity in why they sending these things.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely, you want clarity. You want a clear understanding of, and the student needs to have understanding. Okay, I have this link. What do I do with it? What is my expectation? What is the expectation
Right.
of the guardian to make sure that the student is able to engage this content?
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so I think we have time for one more tip. There was one that now this one was kind of fun for me, or funny, because for those of you who are on Facebook, some of you guys have seen those videos or memes where you have the student who's learning and then a parent off in the corner giving the student all the answers. And so one of the tips that I think you actually were talking about, Zabita, was, make sure the student is doing their own work.
Thank you.
It
Thank
may
you.
be easier just to give them the answer. I know you got 101 things going on, but they have to figure it out.
That's right. And that's the point of the learning. So they can learn
Right,
and come up with the answers. I get it. Sometimes our heart aches when you see your child struggling. Back off. Don't give them the answer. That's where you know your child have some learning gaps. It
right,
might prompt a conversation on more supports. Look at it from this angle, where you will possibly have more supports, additional supports, more resources for your child learning. A conversation with a teacher who said, like, let's say, I have parents who have said that their child, they were not really engaged in the science because remotely the science in early elementary is hands-on, where you have the experiment and you have to do the observation and the this and the that. But remotely, you are looking at a video and you are thinking that video like is just a leisure time. So you are not taking notes as the video is playing. If that happened and your child is not taking notes as instructed by their teacher, then additional support is required.
right,
Someone have to prompt and accommodate that child to say, Johnny, did you take notes during the experiment? What did you see? What do you think? So they can kind of get that brain kind of going and don't give the answer.
right.
No.
You'll never, because if you give them the answer, you'll never know if they need the prompts, if they need to change the IP, if they're making progress, even though it might be easier. So
Well,
or it might be
some
easier
of the
but in the
kids
long
they
run,
having
you're gonna pay
some
for
of the
this.
kids they having difficulties, and this will be a tip that I think it may be the last tip. The behavioral challenges during the remote learning and during the pandemic have been a serious concern, as the calls come to us. A lot of parents said that I did not know my child have those behavioral challenges when I say do and they are refusing to do the work. Please pay attention to those patterns. Request additional support or more support or new supports to your child, because again they're missing a lot of things, the social interaction with their
Right,
peers. They are not able to connect the dots, like, why am I doing this from home? I'm supposed to be in school. Some of them, they have that shallow understanding, and
right,
they are not connecting the dots. Make sure that you have a solid foundation of communication with the school. When you see those pattern of behaviors, when I say behavior, it's not necessarily getting up and not doing the work. It may be just shut down. We have calls where the parent said, my child is planted in front of the computer from 8 to 2 and no work is done.
right.
That's a shut down.
Absolutely.
Need behavior intervention support, need additional support to make sure that the child is okay.
Right. So I want to say that we are actually probably down to our last 30 seconds. I know time flies when we're having fun. I want to thank you, Zabita, for this wonderful information that hopefully, parents you find useful. And if as always, if you have questions, please contact Family Resource Center on Disabilities at 312-939-3513. And again, it's great to be together again, Zavita.
Yes, it is great to be together, elbow bump virtually.
Right? Elbow bump. So
Virtually.
thank you everyone for joining us and have a wonderful week.
Thank you.